All right. What do you guys think about calling this meeting to order?
Okay.
All right. So Mike is out this evening, so he asked me to run the meeting. I'll be taking notes as well. So we called the meeting to order. He didn't give me a copy of the minutes to approve from last time, so we'll have to address that at the next meeting. After that, it comes up to subcommittee reports. And the first item is grants. So do you have any updates on any of the grants they want to note since the last time we met?
Not to my knowledge yet. Dan, this is Chris. I'm thinking we should know by the end of the month about the one we applied for, but we haven't heard anything yet. And I did just send around by email something that Ed had found and passed on to Mike and me. And it's another cybersecurity training one. And it sounds like it's for municipalities and schools. So Kim, I don't know if you're familiar with it. I got the impression it's something we might have applied for in the past, but it's kind of weird because it says we need a .gov address and our town address is .org. So I'm not quite sure, but it's very much cybersecurity training related. So I think Ed is at a housing meeting, but as soon as he's done with that, he said he would be joining in. So maybe we can circle back and have him explain that a little bit more if he knows anything more about it. I don't know. It's a different one that might complement whatever we were just applying for with the Community Compact IT. It may, extend a little bit on the soft side for us. So I don't know, much more than that, Fridge. But I just sent you the link in an email.
Yeah, I haven't heard about this yet, so I'll take a look and see what it's all about, I guess. It'd be great if we can get some additional training, or if it's a grant to be able to. I know that part of what we applied for included some training, which would, sort of send out where we could get some metrics on if people were clicking on things or not, and that's done with a piece of software, and that grant might give us that opportunity to maybe to get a subscription to that as well.
Yeah, this sounded like it was a real, you could have varying lengths of training apparently, and the intent was to get municipal employees and trained on cybersecurity issues, so they had actual phishing exams, etc. So it sounded like something that could be of use, but I really don't know much more about it. I just caught it myself recently. I don't know what's happening with my video, but I'm here.
I stopped sharing my screen because I realized I didn't have anything to show, so figure we can.
No, I'm just still sitting. I'm in some weird darkness. I don't know why. That's fine. Oh. No problem.
Okay.
I think I could recommend, Chris, sometimes if you reboot your computer, sometimes the camera comes back, but
yeah, okay, it's all right.
Leave the meeting and come back in.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so that kind of covers the update on the current grant we're applying for, as well as we have information about a new grant, possibly. So that's all good stuff. I have a question about, while we're on the subject of grants. I guess I'll ask Chris, since she knows the most about grants of all of us. In terms of the town webpage, do you know of any grants that could help us update the town webpage?
There I am. Okay. It's something that I don't know what's happening all of a sudden. Kim, you were right. It's something that Ed and I have talked about, and we were looking at something that came across his desk recently. Nothing definitive yet, but we're wondering if there's something we could use out of the ARPA funds that are going to be allocated to us, that are on the broadband side, but also there may be some possibilities at doing some website upgrades along with a couple of other things. So he was looking into that a bit more.
Okay. So good question to talk with Art, or I mean Ed about. As much as I like talking
And
to Art.
I just got a note saying Ed says he'll be on that housing meeting for about 45 minutes. So I don't know if we'll have enough information.
Yeah, it's all good. So the next topic is phones. I guess is for you, David. Any update on our phone situation?
I will jump in front of that train. So I have the I have the whole summary kind of built out, which I really went back through multiple email chains to try to pull out relevant information that I'm sure the the select board and other folks might have questions on in terms of time to deploy, what sort of information they need, some information about the phone system and everything there. The one piece I don't have is the POTS line, the copper line inventory, and what everything's used for. So I did go through 3 Verizon bills from like January or February that I have, and I pulled out anything that showed up there, but that's not going to tell you if you have something like an alarm panel that hasn't placed an outbound call. So, in terms of like actually figuring out what's going to need to get ported, what needs to stay, and all that stuff, we can either move forward and request like a customer service record from Verizon to try to get that full inventory, which I probably wouldn't have personally have access to do, or just go with what we have like in the contact information on the website. So I have a table built out like in the end of this summary that I'm just going through, and I'm grabbing what I see for contact information for accountant, assessor, et cetera, and I can throw that in there because I'm assuming that most of those phone lines, probably not the fax lines, but most of those phone lines are going to be part of this. Other than that, I'm going to have to kind of guess or do some estimates in terms of, the total number of lines that will go away, and just take a percentage out of the Verizon bill, if that makes sense. But I know, Chris, you were interested in kind of seeing, as you put it, the whole package, put it all together, put it in front of everybody. I also realized that I believe the next meeting is like tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it'd be late for tomorrow, but we could put it on for 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Which would be the 23rd, if you were ready for it.
I'd like to get this out so people can look at it. I think if we're going to have kind of a live discussion or anything like that, that's where I think it should make sense to bring in Chris from Valley Communications, because he can really. Okay. I'm regurgitating what he's told me or what I've found online in terms of their service offerings, but I want people to be able to pick his brain, talk specifics, because I've done plenty of similar deployments, but I haven't worked with his system particularly. So
yeah, no, that would make sense. We could, if he's available next be the 23rd, I believe. We could schedule put him on for a presentation if he could be there in person, or we could Zoom him in probably too.
I think he'd be fine with both. He said it's been a little while since he's been to the great town of Southampton, but he was looking forward to the opportunity to return. So
yeah, okay.
So I'm sorry, you said which was the date? You said 2 weeks from tomorrow?
Right.
Okay. All right.
And usually any presentations we usually do kind of toward the beginning of the meeting, so it would be a 6 o'clock time frame.
Sure. So other than like the real granular detail on the finances, everything is together. So I'd be happy to circulate that. I pinged Ed a couple times, and I think he hasn't had the opportunity to really do the walkthrough on everything. And I think short of grabbing a butt set and going down into the phone closet and actually clipping into all of the Verizon lines and figuring out what they are, which I could certainly do, but I'm going to guess what they're used for at that point. But we can, or he could do the, request the CSR from them as well. That's another option.
So David,
when I talked to him last week, he was still trying to figure out where some of those lines went. He didn't know where some of those lines go either.
Okay.
Some of them have not been used, I guess. So that whatever needs to be done to determine which lines are still active and which ones have to be kept We know the elevator one does, and a few other things like that. But
Yeah, and going through the process of discovery and getting ready to do the configuration, they'll figure all that out. But in terms of the select board making a decision, they're going to want to know how much it costs, how much we're saving.
We don't need that level of detail about which line is in or out. So it's more on a cost basis, cost basis and efficiency basis. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
what I was going to say, David, the thing that I ran into when I was trying to cancel my Verizon lines, the thing I didn't understand or didn't know at the time was that we published a main line coming into, say, the school, but there really was a hunt group behind it. There was other phone numbers that lined up behind it that I didn't even know. They were non-published numbers.
I see.
That were part of a hunt group. That just how Verizon set things up so that people could actually call in and get into the system, and there was more than one line coming in. So that's where some of the confusion with me came in with, it wasn't a fax line. It wasn't an elevator line. It was just part of a hunt group line with the Verizon system, the way they had it set up.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I'll just circulate what I have here. I don't want to hold this up if we're not going to get into that level of detail. And if Ed has some, blanks that he can fill in that table, I think that would be helpful in kind of figuring out what that final cost would be.
Hey, Kim, a question. Were you paying for those lines?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Were you paying for those lines, those shadow lines?
Yeah, that was part of what we were paying for. So they were. So when we went to cancel it, I realized we still have these other phone numbers, and they dumped into a voicemail. I didn't even know that there was some Verizon voicemail that was set up as well.
I wonder how many we have. Can imagine.
I don't know. Yeah,
I think when I was looking at one of the bills, some of those are really hard to translate in terms of what the various line items and fees are, but it almost looked like there was a count of like 38 lines, and I'm like, I'm not seeing that many lines in anything that I can find on here. So I mean, there may, the elevator probably, hopefully isn't making a lot of outbound phone calls and isn't going to show up on a usage bill and stuff like that. So we may have to do some minor estimates, but I think, as we dig into porting and everything like that, we'll figure all those details out.
Well, who's going to do it? Who's going to do this thing? We got to get going on this. We've been screwing around with this for years now. So who's going to do it?
If I could flick a switch and get it done, we would get it done. But this is a decision that the select board, I believe, needs to make. Yeah, we brought some of this up at the quarterly readout, and it was basically a request to have a more detailed look at everything. So that's what I've been trying to compile, is as much info as I can send out, and then connect everybody with Chris, who I think can answer any remaining questions they would have.
So the goal is to leave that meeting with a yes or no. Really.
Yeah, I would hope so. Again, I haven't been through the paces on this. So I don't know how feasible that is, but.
Yep. No, I think the main thing that a couple people had asked for was just to be clear on the cost comparisons. So what it's going to cost in terms of, what we're doing with the phones, renting them, owning them, and then, what is going to be the recurring cost, and how does that compare with what we're paying now?
Right.
And if we can show that we've got some cost savings, I don't think you're going to have much of an argument.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's really just that bottom line, which I, other than estimating, I can't provide. But
yeah, what I wanted to mention too is that, when I put a phone system in, sometimes it was hard to justify, especially on a large scale, a lot of cost savings, because we had an in-house PBX system. But what we were going to gain over the course of a number of years was that we were going to stay current with our system. We were going to gain a unified phone system that had voicemail, that had easy ways. So there's these things you can't put a dollar sign to as well. And so those are the types of things that if you don't always see a dollar for dollar cost savings on these things. There's got to be a way to do a cost evaluation on saving time and efficiencies and being
Right.
modernized and up to date, having, voicemail messages go to your email so you can reply to the public in a timely fashion
Right.
if you're not. So those types of things need to be taken into consideration,
Yeah.
even if we can't show a nickel or a dime savings on something, because
Mhm.
there's got to be that.
Yep.
There is that benefit of moving forward in this fashion.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So I think that's, we're not dismissing that. I think that issue of efficiency and just being more productive in general and having people be able to contact us and provide better services to the town, definitely high priority as well.
Yeah, because there'll be a cost savings that's hidden in all of that.
All right, very good. Is there anything else before we move on to our next subject? All right, hearing nothing, the next subject is the CARES Act laptops. Hi, David.
Come back off mute. So the last message I got was actually in line with the conversation I was having about the phones with Ed. Give me 1 second, I'll pull that up. So I believe he was down to like 1 or 2 last I heard.
Yeah, I think I can jump in. As far as I know, all of them have been installed, doing fine, except for one. And that's because the office decided they didn't want to take it. So that right now is the Board of Health has declined the phone. I'm not sure why, but it's sitting in Ed's office. So I don't know how that's going to play out when we have to hook everything up, because they need to all be hooked on one system as far as I know. But as far as I've heard, everything's up and running, and I have not heard anybody telling us that things are not working. So they worked out some different glitches, and whoever that other guy was that came in for Rolf did a great job installing things. He seemed to really know what he was doing, and Ed was pleased with what he did. So I think we're okay in terms of that part. At the moment, I don't know where the last laptop, if it's going to eventually go to the Board of Health or what's going to happen to it. I haven't heard. But
Does that mean we're done with Wally?
I'm
Unless
kind of
some
thinking
warranty
so, but
issues come up, or
I can't answer. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know.
okay.
I'd like to get his feedback as well. The one thing I didn't get in here was feedback on the dock issue that they were experiencing. They were like going to try out a different version of the dock because they were having
Yeah,
an external
for
monitor.
the library, right? That was for the library, maybe?
I think it came
Yeah.
up one of the first few batches of deployments. But I think
Okay.
the gentleman from Wally said, I have these 2 other docks. We're going to try this out and see if that works. And I just haven't heard back.
Okay.
So I guess it's up to Ed to determine where the laptop that was going to be assigned to the Board of Health would go. Is that...
Well, I mean, and if it's not going there, I mean, how do we get them on the same system that everybody else is? I mean, I don't know what they're doing differently. So I don't know what the issue is myself.
Yeah.
They have
Interesting.
a totally separate server, and they're working their stuff through Northeast IT. So, and I don't think she's going to change at all. And seeing it's an independent board, an elected board, not a damn thing we can do about it.
Well, the reality is we're putting out nearly $200 a month for that cloud backup. So that's coming out of CARES money, and that all stops in December.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you.
Well, that's some interesting information that we learned. All right. Well, that's from where we were from the last meeting I attended. I'm glad it seems we've made progress with those laptops. So it's good to hear that. Is there any, we'd now move on to new business. Is there anything in old business that wasn't listed on the agenda that should have, or I guess, is there any new business people would like to bring up?
it's not new business. I guess I just have a, we're sort of engaged in the, the cybersecurity grant. Hopefully we'll be a recipient of that. We can kick off some work from there. The CARES Act laptops seem to be deployed and things are working their way, to being used. And I'm just wanted to, and then I know that there's efforts around website. I just wanted to refocus like where this committee then and subcommittees, like, I didn't know if there was been conversations around sort of sort of the next things that we may start to talking about or
like
looking at or
prioritization list.
And so I guess it's not really, I mean, it's kind of new business, but it's just wondering if it's, if we've heard from maybe Ed about where he might want us to focus some of our efforts, or if there's other folks that work in town that we could, I mean, I know the phone system again. So again, there's a lot of big things going on right now between the grants, the cybersecurity grants, the phone system, the web and stuff like that. And, bringing those things to closure over the course of the next couple months, then sort of where I'm just wondering what the focus of the committee then would be.
Well, there's a number, there's certainly a number of things on my list. First, down in town hall, we need really some coordination between departments, which is totally lacking. The paper and all the stuff you've got to go through. I'm very lucky. I have a system, my e-permitting system is in the cloud. Everything works quite nice. It's also online. People can order up a permit online. They can pay by a credit card, all that good stuff. But I've got to take a stupid thing called a turnover, which is a piece of paper, and I've got to write it, calculate it out using Excel, put on all the information down, walk it over to the treasurer's office, get 2 copies, come back, stick one of them in the accounting and one into my files, and just on and on and on. Some of the stuff we've got to get into the real world here. People are always looking for information. Town clerk is not coordinated with the treasurer, is not coordinated with the assessor. It's all going back and forth. I mean, this should be a couple clicks on a damn keyboard. So we really need to start going through stuff like this. Other things that I'd like to see this committee do is, hey, maybe it's time finally to come up with a new bylaw that all new buildings have heat pumps. All new construction, house construction in Southampton have heat pumps. Everybody's screaming about climate change. That's one little thing that may be of interest. Community solar. We do have a lot of community, I think, town property around. Have we looked at that, and what can we do with it? We've got Kanicki's Folly right behind the firehouse. That's been sitting idle for years now. Places like that would be of interest and could be. We've got property down on Gilbert Road, et cetera, et cetera. So there are definitely, and I probably can come up with 5 or 10 more if I really think about it. But I think trying to get, I still don't understand what our end product is going to be. Yeah, we got all these laptops all installed and this and that. What's the end product? Are we going 365 and eliminating the server? I mean, the server is old. It's got old software in it. You wonder why the Board of Health don't want to get on it. I don't want to get on it half the time either. And also, I find out today that the town clerk's office had lost all the dog license information. Had to call Wally in, which was kind of a shocker. I don't know why Wally was called in, but they called in and they said, "Hey, this server hasn't been upgraded since last July. All the damn files are stale." So it just goes on and on and on. It sounds good, some of the things we've done, and believe me, I think we've done a lot. And I'm looking at right now that David has done a superb job putting all this stuff together. But we've got to, pull it together as far as town hall. I finished my rant. Thank you.
I guess I just want to. I'm just going to add a couple of comments, but it sounds like there's definitely plenty to look at and plenty to try to coordinate and do. My only question is, can the things you're talking about honestly be done by committee, or do they need to be done by someone who is hired by the town to be their technology coordinator?
Yeah, well, I agree. I'm sick and tired of committees. This damn town runs on committees, and it's really a joke. I mean, it just can't do this. We're getting too big now, and we've got to start expanding. And I agree totally, Kim. We need somebody to run an IT department. We need somebody to be to do this type of work. It's not getting done. And I don't feel like doing it anymore. I'm too old to do it anyway. So
You're doing a great job, Art.
Oh yeah, I did it years ago. I'm sort of retired, but you're absolutely right, Kim. I totally 100% agree with you. But it costs money. Well, everything costs money, and sorry, that's the way it goes.
So I think there's a lot that kind of hinges off of what happens with the grant, because I think that's going to provide some funding that just currently isn't, to my understanding, available, to whether it's being paid to a managed service provider that would be kind of coordinating and driving some of those efforts, or going into whether it's physical hardware or deployment services or something like that. But I agree. I think even if you get the grant monies, it's still going to be the town with money and a committee, and everybody is stretched pretty thin. It's hard to execute on something, especially when there's big dollars involved, to execute properly.
And what happens, after the 1 or 2 years this thing runs out? Now it's reoccurring. Who's going to pick that up? Is the town ready to do that?
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera. That's the type of planning. And what are you going to do? I mean, it's got to get done.
I mean, I think this committee could certainly write a technology plan that include, multi-year, multi-budget recommendations coming up with things that need to be addressed. But you're right, it's the execution and the day-to-day support and operation of those things that are going to be missing.
Yeah. I have some great slide decks for road mapping sessions. I just don't know who we plug in as responsible parties.
Yeah, well, that's it. You hit the nail on the head, David. That's what I'm talking about. It's like it's you can map out the project, but you can't assign the work to someone just yet. There's nobody really to assign it to, and you really can't just outsource it 100%. It just doesn't work that way these days. They got to have somebody who's got their hand on the pulse.
I'm wondering how this connects to the group, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and that that compact and that group that we just met with for cybersecurity. Are they the boots on the ground long term? Or are they really just focus on the cybersecurity effort? Or will they
would assist us. I certainly agree with that. But Kim's saying, and David's saying the right thing. I mean, we need, somebody there every day to do, this type of stuff. I mean, I'm being told we're backing up stuff. Well, I haven't seen any evidence of that. But here's a good example. This dog license data. It got corrupted because they're trying to put in a system like we have in the building department to be able to pay your dog license by credit card, et cetera, et cetera. And then when they were trying to put the software in over the phone by whatever company that supplied it, something got corrupted. Now, how many times have we tested our restore function? I can almost tell you 0. So, this time I think we maybe lucked out, but that should be an ongoing thing. I mean, all this stuff, as you guys that work in the field know, this is a constant thing. And nothing like that gets done.
So I guess I'm going to throw an idea out there. We have an asset on this team that I think can help us in this area, and I think it's Kim with her connections through the school district, and the surrounding communities. I'd imagine that they may also need some type of IT support, and perhaps through that regional organization, which is maybe organized through the school district, it becomes affordable for all the communities involved. Just throwing that idea out there.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, there was an attempt a little while ago, but it was quite a while ago, to look at regionalizing IT services, and it was a thought that I had many, many years ago because I saw the needs in all of the towns who could not afford a full-time tech person, and what we were also doing in the schools. And so with that connection, thought about what would it look like for a regionalized IT sort of effort around some personnel. So yes, if you can't, you're not going to hire a full-time person, say in the town of Easthampton, but you could potentially have a 0.1 FTE in Easthampton, maybe a 0.4 in Southampton, a 0.1 in Chesterfield, or something like that, or 0.1 in Goshen, so that there could be a shared. But again, that's at a different level. That'd be, talking with the towns and the select boards, and talking with their tech committees to see if there's a need. I guarantee you everyone is doing what Southampton is doing. They're outsourcing to somebody like a Northeast IT, but I can't imagine they don't have the same struggles that we're talking about, because they may be smaller, but I think that their challenges around technology are still the same, and it might be an idea that people might be interested in.
I think, again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but, the plan B, I totally agree, would be to have a contract. This, call them as we need them just doesn't work. We need some type of a comprehensive contract with the Northeast IT or something, a company similar, that would do this type of work, do the restores, do the testing, do the cybersecurity testing, et cetera, et cetera. That's versus not being able to, hire and I agree, for a town, even though we're growing and growing, we're going to our second precinct. Can you believe that? We're going to have 2 precincts in this town. And one voting area, one voting place, but 2 precincts. But it is growing like crazy. And, we got to keep up with this stuff. And maybe, you can't exactly justify it now, the IT person, but at least get a full-time contract with somebody that, that's doing this work on a consistent basis. I think this committee could certainly sit down and write up a pretty comprehensive contract and get something like that going pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I think Novus said that they would act as a help. They do have these help desks. Like I recall when we were talking with the Pioneer Valley, that the IT collaborative there, that Novus had said, the ones that helped us write do the cybersecurity grant, that they had, you could contract them for help desk services. So if you're working and something happens, you can pick up the phone and call them. And because they have been involved in other area aspects, with the 365 implementation, the cybersecurity, understanding the network, the Wi-Fi access points that we asked for to be able to provide a guest network. So they know this stuff. They'll be able to provide that frontline support as well under contract.
Yeah, that would be good. And I would think that they would also be doing, hopefully, stuff in the background, like I say, restores and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that was part of the grant where that was if we signed a backup contract with them, they would be doing that.
What might be helpful with that in mind would be to have some sort of a listing of like a statement of work, at least a skeletal statement of work that, when the time comes that we're ready to present it to them and say, okay, you guys and or somebody else, this is the kind of stuff we'd like to have done on a regular basis. If maybe that could be something that, the tech committee could focus on and at least do a draft of a scope of work. That would get us 3 steps down the line, believe me.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Who wants to own it?
Well, I'd like to see what they're going to, if we get, first we got to get the grant. I'd like to see what they're going to supply us and maybe get into that for a couple of months or two. Then I think we could come up with see what we need and put it together.
Yeah. I think too with other projects, just talking about one thing, tying on to a little bit of what Art was saying, certainly the whole notion of improving our financial services in a way toward the townspeople in general. I know it's one of the things that we've been talking about is trying to do some level of changeover of our financial software to something that is much more automated and doesn't take 5 different people with 10 different steps to do the same thing over and over again between especially the treasurer's office, the accountant, and Ed. And so there's a couple of different software systems that I know have been mentioned, and we're starting to look into that. And I think that's going to be something that will be coming down the line. It's got to happen. We're so hands-on and so paper-oriented, and just a lot of wasted time and energy redoing, similar efforts on the same piece of paper. So I think that's definitely on the radar screen. And just the second thing is just the whole, whatever the broadband effort is for town with that ARPA money, to the extent that we do something with broadband in areas of town that are less served, that's something that maybe you guys could help out with too.
Works.
So I'm presenting my screen of a list that we had put together when we had started this group way back in the day. We kind of put together a list of what were some of the focus areas, and perhaps it would be a good exercise. This is all good conversations we're having now, but maybe for the next meeting, we get this in a better format and we add to it and prioritize the list and try to get our focus areas in order, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of going through the list, and it looks like there's a lot of stuff that's already been either mentioned or is being worked on or is completed, which is amazing.
It's a good thing. If we solve all the town's IT problems, we can disband the group.
Yeah, but I like revisiting that and kind of putting them into categories of currently in process, done, and and new items. Now that it's just sort of categorizing that. And redoing some of the stuff that maybe fell into something else. So, for instance, the town hall server might actually be addressed under that cybersecurity disaster preparedness, because they've talked about what they would do in terms of backups and cloud and whatnot. So that kind of goes together now, and so we could relook at some of this stuff and recategorize it.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna record that as something business for our next meeting when Mike is back, and that way, at least that gives me a little time to put this in a better, manageable format to use for discussion. Yeah,
I think that'd be a great idea, Dan, just to recategorize things and just take a look at things that we can consider, at least, 75% done to 100% done, or things that we haven't even started yet. I mean, the website is one, and a few others. So, I mean, where are the next level of priorities that we could try to focus on? I think that would be a great idea.
Right. I wouldn't say the website isn't started. We have met with one company, and I identified another company that they focus in municipalities' websites. That's kind of their bread and butter. And really, after we do that, they give us this bill for $20K, $30K, and it's like, okay. So that's kind of why my question of money in grants comes to mind,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we can choose the best technical solution and best per cost, but still there's going to be a cost,
Yeah.
so it's all part of it. But yeah, I think that'd be a good subject for the next meeting. Is just this was just a great brainstorming session we had, and I think we could do it again and get ideas here. Also get some voice of our customer, right? Talk to the people in the around town hall and other area, like Art mentioned, like how intense it is to get some of this paperwork done. It really is paperwork. So I'd imagine there's a lot of this happening. So
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
right. So I'll add that to the as a note for next meeting.
Yeah. Just one other kind of a side comment. I don't know where we're keeping the notes of the minutes of the meetings and where we're after we've approved them, but as our committee on the mytown.gov, there's no minutes being filed and posted up there,
Interesting.
so they need to be.
Yeah, I had been doing that.
once we
I'll
approve
talk with Mike about that. So
Yeah,
we
You may not
need
know
to
how to-
post.
yeah, I'm not sure if he knows how to do that or not. But it looks like there's like maybe 6 months worth with no minutes posted, so
Yeah.
we should get those up to date since you are doing minutes.
Yep. Typing away. All right. Are there any other subjects that we need to discuss this evening? Any burning thoughts or ideas that people have in the back of their minds they want to bring up at this point?
Mm-hmm. Nope.
Art, I had one for you when you mentioned what'd you mention? Well, it wasn't community-based solar. You mentioned heat pumps, right? For like as a. So I learned this because I'm looking into solar power for my home.
Yeah,
And did you know that the state of California is requiring that all new homes being built have solar panels installed in their on their roofs?
if you can, which is a good thing, and that's maybe something too. But I've been following Arlington and some of the communities up in the eastern part of the state that are now having bylaws dictating heat pumps for all new house construction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not? I mean, it's a good time to do it, and I just did it myself.
Yeah, the efficiency is amazing on that. It's like
Yeah.
3 to 1. It's not. It's almost magic.
Just a quick aside, one of the things that really pushed me, propane's going up like almost 50%. Propane is like you go to the gas station and you have no control, because propane, it's 5% of the, of the stake of it is us out here, us in the country. So we have absolutely no leverage whatsoever, and they're selling all this propane over in Europe and even in the Far East, which kind of blew my mind. So that's going up like incredible. So is everything else, but nothing like propane, where electricity is going up. I think I saw a lot the other day. It either has gone up or will be going up about 6%. So that's not, that really makes me a smart engineer, right? Buy a heat pump, 6% versus like 50%. So, and it's running quite well, and it certainly can almost run down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I have mine set at 15, but it's kind of nice when you wake up in the morning and see that heat pump working away. And
we might be on the side, but check out Dan Breen's roof sometime. You'll be impressed.
Check out what? I'm sorry.
Dan Breen, his roof.
Oh,
Be impressed.
I know he's got some solar up there. Yeah.
All right. So if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Any second for that?
Do you want to set another meeting time?
Yeah, 2 weeks from today. How's that? That's not interfering with any holidays coming up, right? No, not yet. Yeah. Okay, so that would be the 22nd. Next meeting date.
Okay.
Is 11/22/2021 at 6 p.m.
And I think that will give us, if you have a chance to look at the email I sent around, I think that gives us a chance to apply for this other cybersecurity training thing that's still within the deadline. So it would be good if we had a sense of whether we wanted to or not at the next meeting, perhaps.
Yeah, and it gives David a chance to, the day before the select board meeting, if there's anything you need clarification on or ways we can help, it's right before then, so.
Well, and actually, David, just so you know, we set up the agenda the Wednesday before the Tuesday select board meeting. So by mid next week, whatever paperwork you've got, just pass on to Ed so it'll get in our packets.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to send over what I have now.
Okay.
And we can circulate it, bounce it off a couple folks, and figure out what else we need to do to kind of come up with a round number. If there's any other feedback in terms of, wish we had this level of detail or something like that, just by all means, let me know. And then we'll also reach out to Chris from Valley to see if I can get him on locked up for
23rd.
23rd. Yep.
Tell them there'll be free cake. All right. So we're motion to adjourn. Anybody object?
No objections.
All right. Hearing no objections, I move we adjourn.
Night all.
Thank you.
All right. Night. Thanks, everybody.